going on, I suppose, pre and post COVID. My name is Eimear and I'm the Nursing and Family Liaison Director down there. And then Mitch is also on the call, and Mitch is our camp director. So we're just going to go through a couple of slides. Happy to take questions as we go, or if you want to keep them to the end, that's fine as well. So I just wanted to start off by giving you a little history of Barretstown. You may already know that we were founded by Paul Newman way back in 1994. He built his first camp over in Connecticut in 1988 and followed with some more in Florida and upstate New York and California. And following, I suppose, the success of those, he decided that it'd be nice to open a European camp. Ireland wasn't necessarily his top choice of places to have this camp. He had done a film over here. I'm not sure the name of the film, but anyway, it had rained all the time. So obviously his impression was that it was going to rain on the kids at camp. So maybe not the best choice of locations. But the Irish government owned Barretstown at the time, Barretstown Estate. So they arranged a visit and he came down, and the rest, as they say, is history. We served 124 children in that first year in 1994. And in those early days, typically the children were children who had either some form of blood or bleeding disorders and children with childhood cancer. And then fast forward on to 2019, we celebrated our 25th anniversary, and we also celebrated the milestone of serving over 50,000 campers and family members through our residential and outreach programs. I suppose initially in the early days, they were all residential camps, so on-site camps. But in 2012, then we extended that reach to the hospitals and schools programs, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail later on. We also looked, I suppose, over the last couple of years at other illness groups that we could serve. And in the last couple of years, we were able to extend those groups and now serve children with juvenile arthritis, children with inflammatory bowel disease, epilepsy, type 1 diabetes, just to name a few of the newer groups. And then unfortunately COVID came last year. We were able to serve we had 7 family camps from early January up till the 8th of March last year. But like every place, I suppose, we closed our gates, and the team pivoted very quickly, and we created some virtual programs. So we were able to live broadcast into the safety of people's homes. I won't go into too much detail here because Mitch has a slide further on, and he'll tell you a little bit more about the programs. We were just telling Robert before you came on that we are building some new studios down there due to, I suppose, the success of those programs. So we had initially put them in rooms that weren't being used, but now just right across from the med shed, there'll be a brand new 2 or 3 new studios. We're busy at the moment looking at reopening camp and plans to do that. So we're working with an occupational healthcare provider called Precision Health, and they've been supporting us for the last year with our measures, I suppose, in place and keeping everybody safe, because we do have our camp team on site delivering the virtual programs. And then we work very closely with our Child Advisory Committee and obviously the Barretstown board. So we have a big reopening plan or document in place. And the hope is that at the early June, we'll be able to open the gates and start welcoming families back. We'll start very, very small with only 3 families for each of the camps to start with, to see how we go. And obviously we have a lot of COVID measures in place, whether they be testing of families or staff, or making sure some of our staff are vaccinated. And then obviously all the regular ones like wearing face coverings and social distancing and enhanced cleaning protocols. To move on then.
So to answer the question, folks, what is Barretstown? The first thing that jumps to mind, I guess, is that we're a residential camp for children affected by serious illness and their families. And that kind of mission statement, or that description, has been with us since 1994 when we opened. And it's, that is what Barretstown is known as, although the program has developed over the last number of years, as Eimear alluded to. It started off and is still very much a residential camp for children and families. Fun for us is a massive component of what we do, and anyone who's been there will testify to that. But the fun element of camp is crucial. It's central to everything we do with therapeutic recreation as well. So it is a fun, activity-packed weekend program. which is age appropriate and based around challenge by choice. And kind of what we mean by that is just that in terms of being age appropriate, that we get teenagers to hang out with other teenagers, we get young kids to hang out with younger kids, we get parents to get a chance to spend time with other parents as well, so that it is very age appropriate in terms of what activities and what entertainment you're going to be doing throughout the weekend. But it's a massive opportunity to meet other families who are also going through a similar situation to you. That's something that has continued over the years to come back in feedback from families. That is a real plus for Barretstown, that we get to spend time, or that they get to spend time together with other families, and sharing experiences, and just availing of that peer support, where you get to be, you know, close with somebody who's had a similar experience or is on a similar journey to you as well. So in a nutshell, that's what Barretstown is. And, you know, there's different lengths of programs that we offer depending on what time of year it is. But that key model therapeutic recreation, which I'll touch on in a few minutes, is part of everything we do at camp. It's also part of virtual programming and anything we do in hospitals and in the community and schools as well.
And so these are the types of programs that we're offering at the moment. The first one is the family camp. So I suppose if I talk pre-COVID times, so the family camps are typically 3 days in length, and it's the whole family, and usually run over spring or the autumn time. So we say spring, but we start in January and we run those till May, and then again from September to maybe the beginning of December. The nursing support for that type of a weekend would just be a nurse covering days and nights, and I suppose the parents are there, so they're going to care for the children if they have any medical needs, but we're there as a sort of a backup service, or if there's any first aid issues. The next two then, the children and teen camps and the sibling camps, they all run during the summer typically, and there's 7 or 8 days in length. And the age range for those, the children's camps are usually 7 to 13, the teens are 14 to 17, and then the sibling camps actually quite a broad range, it's 7 to 17. And we can have up to about 125 children on site for these camps. And obviously have a much bigger medical team on site to care for the children without their parents. The Brothers and Sisters Camp is a great camp, usually runs over Easter, the first week of the children's Easter holidays. This is very much like a family camp, except you're missing the adults, so the mums and dads don't come to this one. It's only a 4-day camp, and again, it's a lovely starter camp if the kids are a little bit unsure about coming to camp on their own. This one is nice because they get to come with their brothers and sisters. Again, we would have a medical team on site for that. And then the outreach in schools programs, as I mentioned, we extended our reach beyond the gates in 2012, just to bring some of the magic and games and the fun of Barretstown, firstly to the hospitals, so to the clinic areas and to the bedsides. And we're now in 7 different hospitals, so 6 over here, and then 1 in the UK in London. And then we moved into schools as well, and we offer 2 schools programs, one which is an education program, and the other is a camp in school. So it's more about the fun element of it. Not that the education program isn't fun as well, but obviously there's the educational component to it.
And so I mentioned our philosophy, folks, a few minutes ago of therapeutic recreation. And without going into too much detail of the model and how it works, I'll give you just a kind of a snapshot of it. There's a couple of components. Challenge is the first one. So anything we do activity-based, there needs to be some element of challenge to it. So could be climbing the ladder to go on the high ropes course. It could be learning how to cast a fishing rod. It could be loading a bow and arrow. There's some element of challenge involved in every activity. And success then is the next part. So after you've completed the challenge, there's a success that we'll celebrate together. And the unique thing about therapeutic recreation, I guess, is that you celebrate everybody's successes the same way. So regardless of what the challenge was, they're met with that same level of enthusiasm and energy when we're celebrating the successes. Participants and campers, they're given the chance then to reflect on what they've done and what they've learned and some of the new skills they've picked up, or some of the new skills maybe they've rediscovered by coming to camp. There's many different ways we do that, whether it's through activity debriefs or at the end of the evenings where we have cottage chat, or even at the end of a family weekend, we'll show a slideshow of pictures to all of the campers. And it's just it's a powerful and it's an uplifting way to show everybody what they have learned and what they have done in such a short space of time. So it's always a popular piece of the camp weekend is the slideshow at the end. And so it's not just done because it's a nice thing, it's done to get people to reflect and think back on what they've accomplished as a family over the few days. And then discovery is kind of the final part. So discovery is, again, as I said, you've learned something new about yourself, you've challenged yourself, you've maybe rediscovered something about yourself that you had forgotten, and that kind of finishes off the circle of therapeutic recreation. But in the center of all of that is the fun element of camp, as I said. So in order to challenge people at the very beginning, it still has to be fun. And we all know that as adults and as young people as well, that if you're not having fun, chances are you're not going to take on that first step or that first challenge. So our job when we work at camp, when we work with people, is to make sure that that all elements of it contain that piece of fun as well. But the programs are designed to engage and empower people. That's the most important thing too. We want to try and build confidence and build self-esteem and independence, but also we want to build things like hope and friendship and trust and social skills, which can happen naturally at camp when you bring people together. But also by just putting a small bit of structure around it, like in an activity, it can be so much more beneficial and so much more powerful. And in the background then, which Eimear will talk to in a few minutes, is the fact that we do have a fully equipped medical facility on site, and it's staffed 24 hours a day when families and when campers are with us in the summertime as well. And it's such a great addition to the program to have that there. And it's a great safety blanket for families as well to have that there if they need it. With therapeutic recreation, there's a couple of things that make it work really, really well and that are not called out in the model. And I'll just quickly share them with you. The first one is that there's no competition. So we don't have young people competing against each other, because competition, what it does is it creates winners and losers, and nobody wants to feel like they've lost something at camp, or that they've lost an activity or they've lost a challenge. We want everyone to be celebrated. So there's no competition in anything that we do in Barretstown. Sometimes we will have situations where campers are in competition against the staff, or mums might be in competition against the dads. So it's really well controlled. But often enough, funnily enough, when it's campers versus staff, campers end up winning, which is what we want, which is what we want them to experience as well. So no competition is a key part to it. The environment has to be physically safe and emotionally safe for people as well. So if I'm going to take part in an activity and I'm anyway nervous or apprehensive about that, I need to know that it's going to be safe and that I'm going to be safe. So safety is a huge element. It's a huge culture piece to Barretstown, I would say. It's embedded in every single thing that we do, and it's thought about in every single thing that we do, right down to risk assessing and how we set up activity areas. So safety, no competition. And the final piece is challenge by choice, which I just mentioned briefly earlier on. We don't want to force anybody to do an activity when they're at camp. We don't want to push somebody into that panic zone, as we call it. Because what happens when you do that is the fun element of therapeutic recreation is removed, and the model breaks down. So really what we try and do is encourage as much as possible, but we would never force somebody to do an activity that they don't want to do. We would always look for alternatives in that situation. Oops, excuse me. First technical hitch of the evening. Just give me 1 second, folks. There we go. Oh, I've done it again. What's happening is I'm clicking the image of therapeutic recreation instead of clicking the slide. So it's third time lucky. Here we go. There we go. So what does camp look like? So that might be a question people are wondering about. So it's no secret that we have the famous Barretstown Castle, I would say, with the famous red doors. But the site itself is about 550 acres, which is huge. Now we would only use in and around 60 to 70 acres for camp. The rest of the land and the site that we have is used by local farmers and is leased out to different people. But the whole Barretstown estate is about 550 acres. It's made up of a number of different areas, from accommodation cottages to the medical facilities. We have a dining hall that seats 260 people. We have a theatre that seats 280 people. We have a laundry facility. We have indoor and outdoor activity areas. So that's how we've made the best use of the space we have available to us. And And in order to kind of make the best of the schedule that we have over the weekend when families are with us, we try as much as possible to build family time into the schedule so that you can go for a walk and just explore the site and see what is on offer. Because in the 3 days that you will be with us, it's impossible to do all of the activities. So you'll get to do a certain chunk of them, but you'll also get a chance to just explore the site and walk around and enjoy the grounds as well. It can be really, really peaceful in Barretstown when you're inside the gates. And although we're very close to Naas and very close to Dublin, you feel like you're kind of away in a world to yourselves once you're through those gates and in onto the main campgrounds. We have meals, as I said, in the dining hall at 9, at 1 and at 6 o'clock. But for families, we would always have the dining hall open and accessible at all times if you needed to get snacks or if you needed to get teas and coffees and anything like that. It will be available to you. But then also in your cottage that you would be staying in, there are tea and coffee facilities and fridges and things like that in order to bring snacks and supplies with you too. But our whole philosophy is that we try to take care of everything. Anything you might need for that weekend or for your stay, we will try and take care of it and cater to it. It's an idea called thoughtful hospitality that we have. And what it practically looks like, I guess, is that we try to walk through every step of the scenario for families. So right from when they step out of their car in the car park, what is it going to look like and what is it going to feel like? And we play out all of the different steps right up until it's time to depart the car park again on Sunday evening. So we've broken down the camp experience, if you like, into small little bites to see how can we make this the most memorable and how can we make it the most welcoming and caring environment for people to be in. And it seems to work pretty well. In fact, again, what we've heard a lot of the time is that the time goes so fast. Once you've arrived on Friday, in a blink of an eye, all of a sudden it's Sunday and you're getting ready to leave again. And although people might be a little bit anxious and apprehensive about coming in on Friday when they maybe don't know what to expect, by the time they leave on Sunday, only 2 days later, it feels like they've been there for weeks and they've accomplished so much. So it's always great to see that for families as well. And our program, we've done a lot of work on our program over the last number of years, trying to not only bring it up to what's currently attractive for people in terms of what activities we can offer, but we've also tried to grow and develop some of the really popular stable activities that we've had since 1994. So the classic example of that is one of our adventure-based activities, high ropes. For years we had our outdoor course and it was one of the really popular attractions at camp. And we've developed that now to have an indoor climbing wall as well, which is fully accessible to everybody. Fishing is a hugely popular activity and we've made some adjustments and developments around the lake to make sure that fishing has now become an all-weather activity as well, where even if it's raining, there are shelters that people can fish from. So we've developed the program an awful lot over the years, but we've also made sure that we're tapping into different strands and different types of programming. So when I say creative programming, I'm talking about things like arts and crafts, photography, music, drama, creative writing, and nature, even to a certain degree, can be classed as a creative activity, but also an outdoor type activity. So that's one strand, if you like. The outdoor strand, as I said, nature, canoeing, archery, they would all be outdoor activities, fishing as well as in there. And then adventure-based activities are things like high ropes and climbing and horse riding as well. So what we try and do is give a broad spectrum of activities so that people get to experience a whole range of things when they're at camp. And that can be really powerful too, in that you get to experience and take part in activities that maybe you didn't think you could do or that you thought maybe you weren't going to be any good at. The nice thing about therapeutic recreation and the way camp works is that you get the chance to be creative and be musical if that's what you choose to do, or be brave and catch a fish if that's what you choose to do, or touch a fish if that's what you choose to do as well. So camp gives you that opportunities. And Eimear mentioned that virtual programming kind of was a new concept, I suppose, to us this time last year or March of last year. And something we've become very experienced in very, very quickly because of the pandemic. But virtual programming, it's safe to say, is here to stay. You know, as once we're out of the pandemic, there'll always be a virtual component now to Barretstown, and Barretstown Live will be something that we continue to use over the years, so much so that we are, as Eimear said, building our own studios on site, which will give us a chance to broadcast and give us the chance to create more virtual content. And who knows where that will end up. You know, that could be where, you know, we're able to talk and communicate with other camps through live stream. You know, the possibilities are endless with virtual programming, but we do know that it's here to stay now after the pandemic. And then in terms of our team and who you're likely to meet during a weekend or during a stay at Barretstown, you'll meet the medical team, and Eimear will talk about this in a second when we look at the med shed. But from my end, I suppose, or from the program side, you'll get to meet the Barretstown Caras, who are kind of they're a famous group of people, the Barretstown Caras, because they're talked about so much, but they're made up of people from all different walks of life, all different ages, and they're people who are designed or who are attached to your family, and who will walk you through the camp weekend and bring you through the activity areas, bring you back to your cottages, you know, just to be there for you for support if there's anything else that you might need. Barretstown Caras are attached to every family, but they'll also then leave you to your own devices when it's family time. But they'll just be there, as I said, in the background in case you'd need anything. So we also have activity staff, activity leaders, we call them in Barretstown, who are the guys and girls who will run the activities, whether it's photography, canoeing, archery, the ones I've mentioned already. They will have a number of people who are certified and qualified to run those activity areas. And then in the background are the support team. So the people who are kind of coordinating the weekend, whether it's the arrival and departure processes, linking in with the dining hall and the catering team, and just the guys that kind of pull the whole weekend together, if you like. So those are the different types of people you're going to meet throughout the weekend, as well as obviously other families and other campers too. Eimear, I might let you talk about the med shed.
Yeah, I might talk about it. Thanks, Mitch. And so the med shed is obviously it's our medical facility. It's a lovely old stoned building actually in the middle of camp, right near the dining hall. We're very well supported by the local community, because I don't think you could run the med shed without it. So we have a GP in Naas who's very good to us, along with our pharmacy. The ambulance control centre know where we're based. We have obviously Naas Hospital nearby to us, and then we're affiliated with the CHI Crumlin, and also with Temple Street as well. So if any of the children, when they're with us, if they needed to be reviewed by the teams up there, we can send them up there, or if they needed an x-ray, that's where they'd head up to. The med shed itself we have a couple of bedrooms, so we have 5 bedrooms in total, a couple of examination rooms, and a large area that we would call the pharmacy, where we would keep all our medical and pharmaceutical supplies, our emergency equipment. We have backboards and splints, we have oxygen, so we're very well stocked, making sure that we're fit for purpose. As I mentioned, in the family camps, we have nurses that would cover the days and the nights, so if families needed anything. But typically you'll find that the families, they look after the children themselves. It's really just if somebody has maybe a fall, or they have a headache or a sore throat, they'll come in and out to see us. For the camps where the children are on their own, so for that brothers and sisters camp and any of the camps in the summer, we have a much bigger team, usually 2 doctors, and then anywhere between 4 to 6 volunteer nurses would join the team. The first day is quite busy for us on any of those camps, because what we'll do is we'll check every child in, and at that stage then we'll take their medication off them and we'll house it in the med shed. And as nurses then we'll dispense that medication, usually at meal times over in the dining hall. But as you can see from this photo, some of the children obviously would require their treatment in the med shed, so they'll come to the pharmacy and do that. This photo was taken, I believe, when Leo Varadkar was the Minister for Health, and he was visiting. So the young lad in the photo, I'm sure some of you know, had no problem putting his hand up to say he'd happily participate in the photo shoot, and had lovely green hair for the occasion. So. To apply for camp then, we have a physical examination form. We've adapted it slightly for the virtual camps because obviously nobody's coming on site, so it's a much easier process. But say you were to come on site, we have this form that needs to be completed by the hospital. So your referring doctor or any of the clinical nurse specialists or advanced nurse practitioners can fill it in. Sometimes the social workers will fill in the details of it, and then get it signed off by the doctor. And once that's completed, it is valid for a year, and it's sent off to Barretstown. So it goes to the family liaison department down there, and I manage that department, and there's 2 girls that work with me in that department. And so they would process the forms, and I have a look at them from a medical point of view to make sure that they meet our criteria, and give it that stamp of approval. And so once it's approved, then the team, both of the girls down there are called Lauras to make it easy. So one of the Lauras would be in contact with you just to find out what dates would suit, what dates were available, what camps you were interested in. A lot of the time, if families have never been to Barretstown before, they'll be very slow to sign up for a summer camp until they've been themselves, maybe to have a look at it and see how, see where it is, see what the setup is like. So family camps are a nice one to start off with. But once the camp has been, whichever camp has been selected for you, then we'll send out more information. We obviously have our own paperwork that needs to be completed. We have most of it online at the moment, which is great. So you'd be sent a link to a form to complete. And unfortunately for every camp you come to, so if you came to a family camp in the spring and the kids came to a different camp in the summer, that there's forms for all of these camps. But it is much easier now that it's online. And then we just keep that data in our, we have a CRM system. And then if we need updates from you before, in particular before the children arrive, we might give you a call before they come on site. Families can self-refer, so you can contact us directly to tell us you're interested, but we have to go back to the hospital all the time to get this form completed. I think it's over to you, Mitch.
Just looking at our impact, folks, a number of years ago, we engaged with a company called Coin Research to try and conduct some independent research about Barretstown, almost like, for want of a better phrase, customer satisfaction reports, really. So we wanted to know if families were experiencing the things that we were hoping they were experiencing by designing the camp the way we have it done. And we also kind of acknowledged that there was no point in us handing a feedback form to a family who were on camp, you know, on a Sunday before they leave, because maybe they're not going to be as critical or as constructive in their feedback as they could be. So we removed ourselves completely from the process, and Coin Research now look at that for us. So every season we send out a survey to families who have attended camp, or sorry, every session, excuse me, we send out a survey to families who've attended camp, and then at the end of the season, all of that feedback is compiled. And it's really useful for us because, again, there's some great program suggestions that come into it. There's suggestions around accommodation, around arrival and departure processes that we can then tweak and implement into the program going forward. But over the years, we've been very happy with our customer satisfaction, our camper satisfaction, if you like. And just this, we went back to 2019, the autumn of 2019, just to pull some of this feedback together, because it's the last time we would have ran a residential camp over a season, over a couple of months. 95% of those families in autumn 2019 said they were likely to recommend our program, which was brilliant for us to hear. And 97% said that they were satisfied with their experience. I think one thing that I think stands out for me is sometimes some of the quotes that come out of the Coin feedback as well. And there's some very powerful things that people would say. And not only is it really inspiring for the staff to hear those things, but it's also great for us to be able to share that with maybe people who are thinking of coming to camp, or families who are thinking of taking a trip to Barretstown. But just to give you 2 highlights, so the heartwarming care of all the Barretstown staff and volunteers, meeting other families in similar situations, were both hugely significant. But also how through both families, the support of one of the carers and teen activities, my 13-year-old re-emerged as his old self. So that was really nice for us to hear that a camp activity can have that power, can do that for somebody. And having the time to sit and chat with other families and share experiences, seeing my 2 girls come out of their shell and engage with the carers was amazing. And again, that's what we like to hear. And we're hopeful that these things are happening, but until we can hear it directly from families, it just means so much more to us. Barretstown Live then, as Eimear mentioned, we started last March, and And again, just to give you a small flavor of what that program is all about, we converted a meeting room in Barretstown to our Studio 1, as we call it now. And it was very much a makeshift studio at the time, but we've managed to make some adjustments and redevelopment to it, and it's very, very impressive now, but it does need to go back to being a meeting room at some stage. So that's why the demand is there to try and create a facility or a studio on site that we can use permanently. But we knew that Barretstown was going to close on the 8th of March last year, and very quickly we pivoted to virtual programming, so much so that the first broadcast was actually on the 21st of March last year. It's an interactive camp experience. We're trying to engage with families through the screen and through WhatsApp as well. But it's an interactive experience, and it's brought right into your home from the Barretstown studios. In advance of the show, in advance of the virtual camp, we'll send out an activity pack to you. And in it will be everything you need for the show. So if we're going to run a baking activity, all of the ingredients that you need, along with the instructions, will be in the box that gets sent out to you in advance. And generally, the day is made up of 3 core activities, with a little bit of interaction with the studio, and also some ways to share pictures and share stories as well. It's a mix of pre-recorded content, and then also, as I said, live interaction with the hosts who are in the studio too. And we also send out activity videos after the broadcast so that you can enjoy them at your own pace and on your own time as well. But one of the big things for us is that live engagement piece through WhatsApp with the studio, because we get to hear some great stories, we get to see some amazing pictures, and also, again, we get to see that that the program is working and people are participating in it. But again, like everything in Barretstown, we want to do feedback. We want to try and compile what people think about the program and areas where we can get better in. So again, Coin Research carried out some feedback for us. And I believe I went back to autumn 2020 for this feedback, because it would have been the last full season of virtual programming. 97% of families said they would recommend it, and 98% were satisfied with their Barretstown live experience. And again, it's, some of the quotes can be the most powerful, along with the statistics. And I think the first one here, that although the world is currently in disarray and it's uncontrollable, the fact that Barretstown is still there and gives a sense of safety and comfort to the children, that's really, really nice for us to hear. Because part of the motivation to create Virtual Camp in the beginning was to try and find a way to stay connected to families and stay connected to our campers as well. And the last piece, they loved everything from baking brownies to building a fort with the campfire. They love their photos being shown and their names being mentioned live on video as well. And even as adults, we always like to have our name called out live on camera too. So it's nice to see that younger people enjoy that too. So, and I believe that takes us to the end, folks. So it's now Eimear will answer any questions I have on Barretstown.